TCM.com/festival.
Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. Well, if you were just with us for this week's Essential here on TCM, The Women, our next film will give you a feeling of deja vu. It's called The Opposite Sex, and it's a musical version of The Women, made 17 years later when MGM and all the studios in Hollywood were looking at old scripts the studio owned, which could be recycled. June Allison, one of the big box office stars of the 50s, was a primary example of that Hollywood trend. She made 4 major movies in 1956 and 1957, all 4 of them remakes of earlier movies. And she is indeed the star of this redo of The Women. This time she plays not Mrs. Stephen Haynes, but Mrs. Stephen Hilliard. And she's an ex-Broadway star who, after her husband runs off with a showgirl named Crystal, goes to Reno to get a divorce, then goes back to singing and dancing on television. MGM gave this musical version the full 1950s treatment. Widescreen dimensions, color, and a top-of-the-line female cast headed by June, also with Joan Collins as Crystal, Dolores Gray as Sylvia, Agnes Moorehead as the Countess, and also with Ann Miller, Joan Blondell, Charlotte Greenwood in what was her last screen role, and also the screen's famous oomph girl of the 1940s, Ann Sheridan. Now, the biggest difference between this movie and the original version of The Women is that this time you do see the men, among them being Leslie Nielsen as the straying husband and Jeff Richards as the cowboy named Buck Winston. Now, originally, this movie was put together as a project without music to star Grace Kelly, but Grace retired from films before it was greenlighted, so then it was decided to turn it into a musical starring Esther Williams, playing an ex-swimming star whose husband is stolen away by a calculating showgirl. But by the time the production on this film actually started, Esther, like Grace Kelly, had also left MGM. So it then became a vehicle for June Allison, and it was June's last film for MGM after 13 years there as an MGM star. So here with June and Harry James and his orchestra, recreating a moment which in 1944 first turned June into an MGM star in the film Two Girls and a Sailor. June and Harry doing a number together called Young Man with a Horn. This time they do it in a musical remake of The Women done in 1956. So here's The Opposite Sex.